Hi viewers and welcome to the channel, and today we're going to be looking at two different ways of doing repeats in the Lattice2 workbench. So for this one I'm repeating an object, and you can see that we repeat the object across here to add multiples in there, and we can change this to whatever we want and it allows that repeat across. This one we're actually repeating a sketch. So we've got a sketch in here that is an open sketch. We repeat this open sketch and then add formulas in there to actually close the sketch down, connect all the wires up and extrude that as one single object. So we're looking here, we can see going down the tree we've got a single extrude from all this, and we've got a number of different functions that we run on that extrude, the repeats, the connects, etc., to allow us to actually connect that all up. So this allows you for custom sketches that you want to, say, hook up to a spreadsheet or hook up to formulas, to allow for repeating parts, to allow those parts to span with ease. Hope you join these videos, and let's have a look at this technique. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. So for the samples that we're going to be showing you, we need to have the Lattice2 workbench installed, and that's available from Tools, Add-on Manager, and we can add it in there. I'm going to come first over to the Sketcher, and we're going to create a sketch in here along the XY plane. It's a new sketch, XY plane, hit OK. In here we can actually start creating our sketch. This is going to be a very simple sketch, but we're going to start it from this point here, and there's a reason for that. It's because when we add the side to close the sketch, we need to actually start it from here. It's much easier to start it from here than if this whole item was centered, because we just basically attach it to this point. So that's add our lines in here. So this is going to be open sketch. We're going to add our first line that goes across the top and our second line that goes across the bottom. This is line of repeat, so this way here. So we will take repeats of this sketch and repeat it up going this way. Let's add some more geometry in here. So let's add a circle, and let's set the radius of this circle. Click on that. Set in the radius, not the block constraint, the actual radius or the diameter. Let's use the diameter and just set that one to 10. I'm going to center this as well, so I'm going to select this point, and then the last point to be centered, this one here, and use a symmetry constraint. So that's centered now. I'm also going to set the length of this line here, and we'll say this one is 20 millimeters long. So we're looking for a fully constrained sketch, and this is important for the repeats because we need to create closed geometry to allow this to work. Let's take this line and make sure they're equal. And also I'm going to set a length between these 2 points, or height, and set that one to 20 as well. So I've got a fully constrained sketch. The reason why this is important, because we need to close this sketch up when we repeat. So this pattern here will repeat it to the right or to the left, and they will overlay these points and be coincident to them, but they won't be connected, and we'll connect those up in a moment. Also, we're going to add the beginning and the end lines for the beginning and the end of the repeats. Let's hit close, and we'll deal with the repeat of this sketch first. To do that, we need to come over to the Lattice2 workbench. Now we're just going to repeat this linear this way. And that's quite a simple process of coming out to Lattice2 and creating a linear array. And we'll just pick the first one because we're going to change the properties of this to allow for this to repeat. And we've got the linear array here. Let's bring this up so we can see what we have in here. So at the moment the count is 5. I'm just going to drop this down to 2. So we've just got 2 repeats there. I'm going to make some more amendments in here, but first we're going to repeat this just to show you how it will look when we add the sketch in there and with its default values. So to do that, we click on the sketch, we control click the linear array. We're not using any placements at the moment. We're just going to be using these 2 kites here or darts, but we haven't got a placement on this object. It's just going to take its default placement, will be this point here where it's been created from. So we've selected those 2. Let's go up to Lattice2, and we're going to repeat this using the populate with copies and populate with copies. You can see how that's repeated across there. And this new populate linear array with sketch has appeared. Come into here, we see the sketch is sitting here, we've still got it available. Press spacebar on that sketch to hide it, and you can see we've got these 2 here. So we've got a repeat going across here. Now the thing is, if we look at that linear array and up the count to say 5, you can see they're not spaced correctly. So we've got to fix that. How do we fix that? Well, we need to change it from span n to step n. So the mode, if we look down, we'll find generation mode there. At the moment, it's got span end, which is 20. So with span end, you're looking to actually span the size of an object. So at the moment, this object is saying it's 20 long, but we've got more than 20 items in there, or more than 20 millimeters of items in there. So it's going to be crushed all into that span end. So we bring this out. You'll see if I pick 80, then we'll start getting to the right values. But we're not going to be using span end, so I'm going to zero that out. I don't want to use that. I want to use step. So generation mode, drop this down to step n. We can forget about spanning. We zero those out, and we can change the step now. So if I set the step to say 10 and click off, you can see we've got some effect now. The step should be the same as the length of your sketch, which was 20 millimeters. So you can see they're spaced now. So it steps every 20. So we've got 20 millimeter sketch, this one here, and it's now stepping 20. So if we change this now to 2, you can see they're going to be evenly spaced. So I've just clicked off there and just selected something. Change the span end to 30 now, you can see what happens. That spanned it across the 30 millimeters. So we up this to say 24, you can see what's happening there. So we need to keep this one zeroed and make sure this is the same length as this sketch going across here. One thing we can do, let's bring back the linear array, we can actually attach this up into a formula. So if we look at our original sketch, which is here, let's double click it. We've got this 20 millimeters going across the top. We can take that 20 millimeters and reference that. To make this easier, I'm going to double click the 20 millimeter length and give it a name. Let's call this span length. Now, upper and lowercase does matter when we actually reference this. So we've got span length here. Let's hit OK. If we hit close and look at this sketch, we look at the data tab and the properties on there. We've got this constraints. If we open this up, we now got a span length constraint in there. It's actually put the space in there, so don't worry about that. So we've got that there, and we're going to be referencing that. So let's click on the linear array and have a look at the step. So on the lattice series generator, let's have a look at the step. Click on that. We need to change this and hook it up to our sketch. So let's click on the formula on the end, and you can see we've got 20 in there. If we start typing sketch, you can see we've got this sketch here. So we can click that, we've got a dot on the end, and start typing constraints. So we've got the constraints there, click that, and then place another dot and type span length. taking note that we get the capitals correct as well. You can see the result is 20 millimeters, and warning, unit will be discarded, which is absolutely fine. So hit OK. We get 20 in there. When we do Control R, everything will refresh. We may have a check by the side of our linear array there. This means that we can come in and say change the count to 10, hit enter, and everything conforms correctly. Let's go back into the sketch and look at that 20 millimeters going across here. Let's double click that, and let's set this to say 30 millimeters. So we've lengthened that now. Hit close. Now everything has readjusted. We may need to refresh. We may get a blue tick here, so just edit, come down to refresh if so. And we've got this length running across here, but at the moment we can't do anything with this like extrude it because we haven't got a closed sketch. So we need to close this sketch. So this requires formulas again. So we added a formula in before, and we're going to do that again. Before I go ahead, let's name this sketch. So this sketch here, let's rename it and call this repeat sketch and hit enter. So we've got a tick here, means it needs refreshing. Edit refresh or Control R, and that's refreshed. Now if you remembered, we actually referenced that sketch name in the formula for our linear array. So look at that linear array and come down to the step and have a look at that. If I click on the formula, you can see that the repeat sketch has been replaced in here. So before this used to be sketched, now it's been updated with repeat sketch. So that one there. And if I just remove that and start type in the actual repeat sketch, you can see the repeat sketch has come up there. Dot constraints, dot span length, taking no capitals and spaces within. So we've got 30 millimeters. Yeah, okay. So now we've got this, how do we cap the ends? Well, for that we need another sketch. So let's come over to the sketcher. We're going to need two, and let's create a new sketch, XY plane again. Now look at where the background sketch, the background object has started. It started at this point here because we attached the original template to that. Let's go back and have a look. So we've got the populate linear array with sketch. Let's press the spacebar on that to get rid of that, and let's press the spacebar on the linear array to get rid of that as well. Just bring back the repeat sketch, and you can see where that started. Now we don't want to reference in any external geometry with this. We just want to add the geometry that we need to connect all this up. And all I'm going to add is a line from here to here. Now this line needs to be the correct length as well. Now we can either do that by adding the length in here, or adding the length and looking back at the repeat sketch and finding out the actual length that this should be, which I might as well do. So let's add the length, which actually a height in there, which is for the time being going to set it to 20 millimeters. And I'm going to come back to the repeat sketch. So I'm going to hit close, have a look at the repeat sketch, and have a look at this length that I placed in here, this 20 millimeters length here. Let's double click it and give it a name. So I'm going to call this height length, being original, and hit OK. That means I can reference that now in this sketch. Let's double click that sketch, come in and double click this height here, go into the formula, and this was on the repeat sketch. Let's click it, dot constraints. Now I'm going to press the down key there and hit enter. So we've got the constraints there, and dot height length 20 millimeters. Hit OK and hit OK again. So that's fixed now, so if anything changes, that will change as well. Let's hit close. So we've got the first sketch. It's still not connected up, it's still an open sketch, even when we change this part here, add an ending part, which we're going to do now. But we're going to solve that in a minute. So this is the start sketch. And we're going to copy that, edit, duplicate selection. Seeing it's asked us to actually duplicate some other items in here, and I'm not bothered with the repeat sketch, so I'm going to uncheck that, otherwise it's going to duplicate that one up. We just want this start sketch. Hit OK. And we're going to rename this one to end sketch. But you can see we've got a bit of a problem, because basically we've got the repeat, got the start sketch, and if I click on this one, the end sketch is actually underneath here. So let's have a look. So actually, if I click on the start sketch, press spacebar, now click on the end sketch, you can see it there. So we need to move this to here. So the only way we can do that is by using the actual placement and the position. Let's come down and look at the x-axis. So we've got this x-axis here. We can't just place it on here, because when this repeats, it will just stay where it is. We've got to make a formula that takes into account the count of the linear array. So to do that, we'll click on this linear array and have a look, see what we've got. We've got the count here, so I should be able to get to that. So let's click on the end sketch, look at the placement, looking along the X, look at the position, come down to the X, and click on the formula. Now in here we can type in linear array, so we can see our linear arrays in there. Let's click on that. You notice I've selected the ones in chevrons. If I come out of here and just name this linear array, so I'm going to rename this one. Let's put this repeat linear array, although it repeats anyway. Just give it a name. Come into this end sketch and look at the position X and type in repeat. You can see we've got the repeat linear array there. And let's just type in the full name. You can see we can get to that repeat linear array quite easily to the count, but just by typing it, we don't have to include those chevrons. I've just used the chevrons in there. So repeat linear array, because it's the first one that comes up. So that one there. Doesn't matter which one you use, it's either or. So let's set this to the repeat linear array count. That's not going to be enough, because that's just the count of that linear array. So we need to times it by something. Remember, if we go back to this linear array, you'll see 10 going along here. We're just showing the sketch at the moment. So let's just show you what happens when we use that. So repeat linear array.count. That's wrong at the moment. You can see the ticks on there at the moment. Edit, refresh, and that places that there, which is no good. It needs to be here. If that linear array count, because if we look at the linear array, just press the spacebar on there, we've got 10 items. You can see we need to times that by this length here. So that's just hide that repeat sketch. So we're just looking at the results. Let's change the linear array, come down and change the count just to the 1. It's a count of 1. See the ticks there? Edit, refresh, or Control R. And you can see what problem we've got. So we need to take this end sketch and calculate where it's going to sit over here on its placement. Go into the placement, look at the position. At the moment, it's picking up the count of 1. So we need to times that by this length. So come in and press the asterisk. That's times and type in repeat sketch, that one there, dot constraints, and this was, remember rightly, the span length. You can see we've got a result of 30 now. If I hit OK, and we've got the tick there, so that's hit Control R to refresh. That's now in the right place. This means we look at the repeat linear array and go down to the count and set this to say 3 and hit Control R refresh. That is now correct going across there. But we've still got one problem. We can't extrude this because we've got basically this object here and 2 sketches. So to do that, we're going to utilize something in the part workbench. And it's this little icon here, the connect. Fuse objects, take care to preserve voids. And we've got a number of different ones in there, embed and fuse, etc. So we take all the objects they want to fuse together. And I'm going to show you where it is on the drop down. So part, come back down to join and connect objects. That allows us to connect wires together like so. This is now a valid extrude. So I click on that and hit extrude and hit OK. We can see we've got the extrude now. So we can take, if I delve right in and find that repeat linear array and add some adjustments to that, say a count of 5, hit Control R, you can see we've got full control now of how many that should allow. Maybe this is good for if you're doing something like guitar frets, connectable blocks, etc., and you want to do it this way with a sketch, then it's quite easy to do. The other way is to use a boolean. So we use an extrude, create the object separately, and then do the same, boolean those together as the extrude. And we'll show you that one now. For this example, it's a lot simpler. And it's the basic linear array process that you go through. I shared the previous one because I know it can be handy for certain scenarios and allows you to think outside the box when actually using a linear array or any of the array tools in the Lattice2 workbench. In this one, we just have a basic populate copies, and we can change this count to whatever we want. And this is the object that's repeated. If we look inside, we've got basically a simple fusion. We can do with this with a part design object if we want. And I've just fused together an extrude and the top extrude like so, and added those to a linear array, and then used the extrusion length in the actual span n in this step. I've set this up in the step, and you can see we've only need the actual extrusion length in there. So it's one single constraint that we need in there to allow us to do this. So let's have a look how we would actually set this up. I've been through this before. It's just to complement the other technique that we used previously. So for this example, we again got the Lattice2 workbench, which we'll need, and we'll come over to, let's actually use the part design for this. So I'm going to create a part design object. I'm going to create a body, and we'll create a sketch along the XY plane and hit OK. Again, I'm just going to start it from this point here, just to make it simple. We're going to create the same object, got the auto constraints on, and I've constrained to that point there, and we'll bring this out like so. We'll make these two sides equal. This object is totally up to you, but I'm just creating a simple box type object in here, and we'll add a length to one of the sides, let's say of 20 mil. So we've got a fully constrained sketch. Let's close that, and let's add to that, make sure it's selected, which it is, it's in green, add a pad, and we'll set that to 20 mil as well. So we've got basically a box in here. I'm going to add a sketch to the top, selecting the top of the face once. Don't want to select it twice, because if we double click it, we get the whole body selected. Select the top, new sketch. And we'll add a circle in here. Let's constrain it. So we're going to take the import external geometry, this icon here, and just pull in that point there. So we've got this point and this point to allow us to create a symmetry constraint across these 2 points. Last one we've selected is this one, so this will be centered across those 2 points using symmetry constraint, and that's just add finally a diameter of 10 mm. Close that and give it some padding of 5 mm. There we go. So we've got our object, and this is the one we're going to repeat this way. Let's come over to the Lattice2 workbench. Now the point of where this is going to be repeated is this point here, the point that we've created it from. So let's come out to view and toggle the axis cross, and you can see it's actually this point here which we created from, because we created the square, we padded up and then added the top pad to there. And a square was created at this point. So we've got that there. Let's get rid of this axis cross. There we go. Now we need a linear array. So we're going to use the one from the toolbar this time, make a linear array. That's been added. You can see it behind there. Let's go into the linear array and have a look. We've got a step of 5 at the moment. We're just going to leave it as it is. And we're going to add the body, this body here, to that linear array. At the moment, because I was inside this body, the linear array has been added to this body. I want it outside. So I'm going to click that and drag it outside. So it sits outside that body. It's not part of that body object. We're copying that body object multiple times to allow for this to work. So let's take the body object first. So our first selection, click the body object, control click the linear array. We've got both those selected in that sequence, and then come up to Lattice2, come down to populate with copies. Populate with copies. It's going to pull up a warning. You can't use populate tools on shapes in part design body. Use lattice part design pattern instead, or deactivate the active body. I don't want to use this because it takes quite a bit of setting up in there to actually use something like that. There is a way of actually using it without the setup, but I want to steer away from that. So we're going to come in here. We're just going to turn this active body off. So toggle active body, just click it. That turns that active body off. You can see it's not bold anymore. Let's try again. Click the linear array, control click the body, Lattice2, populate with copies, populate with copies. This now works. So we've got those copies going across there. As you can see, we've got the same problem as before, that if we come into the linear array, we've got the step as 5 and it's span n, generation mode is span n at the moment. So we've got to change that. First of all, let's change this to step n like we did before, and zero out the span end. So make sure that's 0, because we're not going to be using those. Don't need to use them. Now we can concentrate on the step, because this is the one that's causing us the problems. As you can see, it needs to be 20. But we can, as before, hook this up to whatever we've used in here. So let's have a look at our sketch. So the sketch here, let's double click that, and we've got a 20mm at the top, which I'm going to double click and call this something like span length again. And we'll reference this. Let's hit close. Let's go back to the linear array and come down to the step. And this is the one we want to change. Yep. Click on the little formula icon at the end, and it's the same process. So the sketch sitting inside there, that one there, with the chevrons, dot constraints, dot span length, 20mm, warning you discarded, perfect, hit hit enter, and now click off, and we've got that there. So changing that linear array, changing the count, say 10, we've now got our object that we can change. So that's two ways of using that linear array with formulas, and also thinking outside the box and using it with a sketch, so that can be handy. So if you wanted to make a guitar and you want to make fretting along there and you're not sure how long the guitar head will be, if you're making some custom guitars, violin, etc., and you wanted to change that length, I don't know if you would, I'm not a guitar maker or a musical instrument maker, but if you had something like that and you wanted to change the fretting and increase the length of that guitar, you could use something like that with the sketcher, or even something like this if these were individual fret parts. So I hope that's helped. Hope you found that useful, and I'll see you again soon. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you again soon.